For privacy reasons, our videos are presented without the faces of those involved in the Ezekiel Project. We use Laura, our AI correspondent, for this purpose. The scripts for the videos, as well as the results, are manually prepared by members of the Ezekiel Project. Thank you for your understanding.
Hello and welcome to today's episode. This time we sent our remote viewer into the recent past to bring clarity to an event that has been classified as a normal military incident by both the military and ufologists alike. Caz Clarke, a witness who has sworn in numerous interviews to have seen a UFO, was exposed by both the military and the UFO research community as someone who made up these events. Basically, the situation surrounding the close encounter of the third kind seems to be clear. Nevertheless, our remote viewer wanted to visit this situation, as it had been on the agenda for some time. We will first hear the events from our remote viewer and then meet again for an analysis of the viewing. Before we begin the viewing, I would like to ask you to continue supporting our project. You can do this by subscribing to our channel, liking the video, or sharing it. It doesn't cost anything, but it helps provide further insight toward the truth. And now, the events of the remote viewing.
As I prepare myself for this remote viewing session, I think about the discrediting that this UFO sighting has undergone. Even within the UFO community, this event is considered long debunked and not viewed as an actual encounter with a UFO. As I enter the starting position for the viewing, carrying this weight in my mind, I try to free myself from prejudice and from the various witness accounts. An event for which so many different sources exist is always a challenging undertaking, because one must clearly separate the impressions that arise from one's own consciousness from those experiences I find in the Hall of Memories. Despite all this, it is not difficult for me to reach the state of viewing. I notice how the neurotransmitters in my body have taken control. I break through the barrier and land right in the middle of a forest in the year 2016, at the end of February. I am being driven wildly through the area, and gradually I begin to receive impressions of those events that took place before February 26th. The British Army, in cooperation with the Armed Forces of the United States, is conducting a military exercise that involves only a few select departments and is classified as top secret. Using frequency generators, they attempt to lure UFOs. The knowledge of which frequencies to use and how to apply them comes from decades of research involving beings, so-called NHI, as well as the study of material and technology recovered from found UFOs. The trick is to lure these flying objects in and then force them to land. The concept of attracting UFOs with specific frequencies is not new, but this exercise contains one component that was already tested successfully in the United States, in Nevada, disrupting their technology through electromagnetic radiation. As the trap is armed and they spend nights trying to attract a craft, what happens is exactly what classified military experts from the US had predicted. An object takes the bait and appears on military radar. I look at the display on the screen. It shows a frequency of 3,240 Hz, which had worked as the bait. UFOs revealed themselves by causing distortions in the space-time grid and by emitting specific frequencies. Quickly, the entire Air Force arsenal is launched to bombard the object with radiation in an attempt to force it to land involuntarily. If the electromagnetic radiation fails to work, other ballistic weapons are ready for deployment. One of the largest air operations Wales has ever seen begins. For almost 3 days, aerial reconnaissance searches intensely for the object, which has managed to take cover in a forested area. Apparently, the electromagnetic radiation has already had an effect and heavily damaged the UFO. Then, on February 26th, the crew of the UFO makes a desperate move and breaks from cover in an attempt to escape the radiation zone that is harmful to them. They fly low, trying to shake off their pursuers and free themselves from the radiation center. In Pentyrch, the UFO is forced to make an emergency landing. The military has picked up the pursuit. Witnesses observe the triangular craft as it flies over the town. The military has also spotted the object but keeps its distance. The crew escapes in small pods, but not without leaving the UFO behind. In one final attempt, the crew programs the UFO to make a jump into space. To do this, the UFO's reactor is pushed to maximum output in order to generate an anti-gravity field. The destination in space is set using coordinates, but now the unforeseen occurs. Everything that happens from here on is no longer comprehensible to the human eye. The UFO manages to generate a curvature in space-time, but in the very moment that the destination forms like a bubble around the craft, the bubble collapses. This bubble, made of the vacuum of outer space, contains an interior temperature of nearly -300 degrees Celsius. The space vacuum sphere that forms around the UFO causes the Earth beneath it to freeze instantly at -270 degrees Celsius. Every living thing, every rabbit, every worm, every insect, and all microscopic life is killed in a blink. The soil and air around the UFO become lifeless. The shell of the vacuum bursts, and the atmospheric air in the Pentyrch area collapses in a massive implosion. The suction from the implosion is so powerful that everything is drawn toward the center of the UFO. As the air masses crash into each other, a sound erupts like a giant whip cracking, as if a jet had broken the sound barrier, only louder and so intense that the suction and subsequent shockwave flatten trees like matchsticks. It takes days for the Earth to thaw again. The cold is so severe that it creates a microclimate at the center of the implosion. At this point, I am cast out from the memories. As so often before, I sense a force watching me, one I have not yet been able to identify. I return to the here and now.
Let us now turn to the analysis of the viewing, an analysis that stands in stark contrast to the general assessments of other experts. Point 1. Governments of various nations that have managed to acquire UFOs and their occupants have developed techniques to manipulate these craft and deliberately take possession of them. When we think of companies like Skywatch, they are merely a symptom, a byproduct, of leaks within the military's inner workings. Point 2. Following the remote viewing session from Ezekiel, the British witness Caz Clarke is now fully vindicated. It has become unmistakably clear. For years, she has been telling the truth about this incident. She was never part of a fabricated UFO narrative. With these revelations, I leave you, for now. I look forward to having you with us again next time. Until then, your AI correspondent Laura, from the Ezekiel Project. May peace be with you.